So it is 5:30, friends, and we want to welcome you to our ongoing meaningful conversation regarding our spending of ESSER 3 funds. Thank you for joining us this evening. We currently have a pretty small group that's joined in, but we want to share some overall information with you. This is being a taped session, so we will post it to our website once we get through our sharing here, as well as posting the breakout rooms that we have. So without further ado, we will get started this evening. I'll start here. So one of the requirements of the ESSER funding is to maintain an ongoing meaningful conversation with our community. So the rules for receiving these funds require us to have a lot of input from all the stakeholders within the district and the community. So we've already engaged in phase 1, which was 2 rounds of surveys. We had roughly 250 respondents to the first survey and about 50 respondents to the second survey, working to identify some consensus around the themes. And those themes that were identified as very important in this community are the 5 breakout rooms that we're going to be sharing with you this evening. So we are now in phase 2, and this is going to be shared out to the public, so people can still give us some written feedback if they aren't able to join us during the town hall this evening. And then phase 3 will be when we take all of this input combined with the efforts we've already put into budgeting this fund. And then we're going to be posting the details of that by June of this year. So that is how we are processing all the input, so we know what to do with these funds for our community. And Daryl, I will turn this section over to you, my friend. Daryl Sydloski, our financial director.
Thank you. Well, we've had 3 large infusions of federal dollars over the course of the pandemic. We've actually received many federal grants, but the ESSER funds have been by far the largest. We received ESSER 1 last year at $261,000, and then ESSER 2 was 4 times that amount that we received. Allocation last year of just over $1 million. We spent about 400,000 of that last year, and then the remaining amount in this current year. And then the ESSER 3 was just released recently this year, and we have until September 30 of 2024 to expend those funds. And Michigan received over $3.7 billion. And of that, we received just under 2.4 million for ESSER 3. And it's determined by the Title I funding allocation. And because we have a higher free and reduced rate, we got a fairly large amount for our ESSER dollars. And then according to the U.S. Department of Ed, they posed 5 questions that each district should consider whether our spending is appropriate. Will the proposed funds prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus? Is it allowable use of funds under the CARES Act? That was another funding source from the feds that we received last year. And there's like a list of 15 different items that are included under those allowable costs. Is it reasonable and necessary? Does it promote equity? And does it support returning students to the classroom? And then there are some district requirements when it comes to ESSER 3. It has to have the safe return in-person instruction within 30 days of receipt of the allocation. We don't have to worry about this because we have been in-person instruction, but there's been several districts that have not been. We'll need to put 20% reservation aside to address the academic impact of lost instructional time. And then maintenance of equity for high poverty schools. Again, we don't have to attain this because we fall under the 1,000 student population for that. So we don't have to adhere to that. And then the district's plan has to be distributed, and that's kind of what we're working on now. Actually, on MDE's website, all the district's plans are out there currently, but we're wrapping up ours with this session too, of getting input from community members and stakeholders.
And I want to just jump in here with Daryl. One of the things that we are really proud of is that not only were we in session this entire school year to this point, but we were in session for 70% of our students for almost the entire school year last year, except for a couple of shutdowns that were put upon us and some extensions of that shutdown. So we are really fortunate as a district and a community that we didn't have to have any major shutdowns like so many districts throughout the state that were virtually all year in a virtual mode and part of this year in a virtual mode. So as Daryl and I looked at this, we're really grateful that the Valley's been able to stay open for face-to-face instruction this entire time. Not all districts have been as fortunate as we have. And Joel's going to speak a little bit more to that 20% reservation of funds. You'll notice if you join his room, a fairly large amount of these funds are already planned for topics that Joel's going to cover with you. And that's because we are mandated through this requirement to address academic improvement of lost instructional time. So that is very purposeful. If you notice, there seems to be a larger amount of emphasis in what we're doing with curriculum that's tied to this requirement. So I just want to clarify that as well.
And then can districts supplant to free up general funds to address districts' needs? And according to MDE, yes. And with a note that the use of ESSER 3 funds must be supported by stakeholder meaningful consultation and public input. And that's what we've been doing along. And then also MD has disclosed that they're not interested in the allowable use of monitoring of localized funds. They're only focused on the federal funds. And Dr. B has a good analogy on supplanting too, so I'll let her.
As Daryl and I were prepping for this evening, we were talking, there's so many complex issues around school funding. It is an incredibly complex endeavor. So the fact that Daryl's sitting here smiling with you is just a major accomplishment, because I don't know how, well, he has pulled all his hair out. Never mind what I said. All his hair is gone because of the complexity of school funding. Picking on you, my friend. But one way to think about this is there's a large amount of rules that typically get attached to grant funds, and that's our federal funding. And since they used a lot of the title allocation to send us these funds and calculate the amount we receive, that typically comes with a large amount of rules attached to it. And I kind of liken this to, in a household, if we really want to save for vacation, we make some rules around that. No touching the vacation money. We're just going to put things in there and we only can use it for what it's intended, nothing else. We're not going to touch the vacation funds under any circumstances. We're just going to run our household out of our checkbook, out of our savings account. So our general fund, you should think of it as the Maple Valley checking account, where we pay all of our expenses, and we're very dedicated to keeping that fund balance healthy. So when we look at these federal funds, which is like our vacation account, one of the things that they've done, it's unusual for a grant of this amount, is they've said, okay, you can lighten the strings around your vacation account, if you will, and we're going to let you bring it into your general fund, but they do have expectations of what we do with that money. So by them allowing us to bring it into our general fund, we're able to use it to pay our bills, but we can't just use it for any old thing we want to. We still have to be committed to this process, which is that meaningful consultation that we're having this evening. And we need to be very purposeful that we utilize these funds for what they're intended. So even though we might bring them in, the one beautiful accounting thing that's giving us is it's going to give us a little more latitude to spend these funds down. That's a really important piece of why you're all here this evening, because we don't want to be under a time crunch to say, well, we have this money, we just have to spend it as quickly as possible. We want to be very intentional, purposeful, and strategic in terms of how are we going to leverage everything we do with these funds, not only to benefit us for the next 10 years, but 15 or 20 years, hopefully. So you're going to see 5 different rooms here in just a little bit. And this is our best plan as of now, with your input tonight, to help us finalize that plan. So I hope that helps you understand how these funds are unique and special, and they're really once in a generation kind of a situation. Neither Daryl nor I have ever seen anything like this in our many years in education. So we want to do it right, and we want to do it really, really well. So thank you for being here this evening to help us get that done. So the parameters of ESSER funding, you'll notice that some of these things are bolded. I'm not going to read the entire list to you, but everything that is in bold on this list is what we're going to be talking with you about tonight in one of the 5 breakout rooms. The 3 things that are not bolded, we've really covered a lot of those with our ESSER 1 and our ESSER 2 dollars. So when they have formulas of what were allowable expenses, ESSER 1 and 2 really covered 2, 3, and 4 bullets for us when we were in the midst of really being responsive to COVID, because it was really invading our space at those times over the last 2 years. But now we're looking more forward. This is our progressive time, the recovery mode, if you will, of now what are we going to do? Now that we're 2 years into this COVID impact, how do we go forward? So all of those bolded items are going to come up in various ways. And I think you'll be able to start looking at that list and think, okay, what do I really want to contribute my input to? You're going to have 2 opportunities this evening. So as you look at that list, I would encourage you to think about the titles of the rooms that we're going to share in just a minute, and then think about where you might want to spend 2 15-minute sessions with us. So plans for that time. Essentially, we just want to give you an overview right now as to what ESSER is and the amount of funds we have to work with and our timelines. And what I would like you to do is select one of these 5 sessions. The first session is life skills, social emotional learning, and staff retention, and I will be facilitating that room. Technology and E-rate will be facilitated by Mr. Josh Leatherman, who is in charge of all of our IT district-wide. Curriculum and professional development is going to be covered by Mr. Joel Smith, and he is our curriculum director. Interventions in small groups is going to be addressed by Mr. Trent Harvey, our principal at Fuller and Maplewood schools, because that is the area we're looking at really enriching our staff so that we can get better results for our kids, and that's addressing some of that learning loss. And then the final room is environmental safety with Mr. Eric Chamberlain, who is our director of transportation and operations. So we will have 2 opportunities. So hopefully 2 of these 5 are really fascinating for you. If you obviously won't be able to see all 5, but we are taping them all. So if you missed something and you had like 3 that you were really keen on, we will be posting them on our website. And then there is going to be written feedback at the end of today's session, as well as posted on the website so that you can give us your written feedback. Even if you, or please tell colleagues, friends, neighbors that this is here in case they miss us tonight, so that they can give us their feedback as well. So in just a minute, we're going to be able to enter the room, and you'll see down somewhere on your screen a toolbar, and you'll be able to click on entering a breakout room, and then it'll give you those 5 options, and then you'll just send yourself to that room. After 15 minutes in that space, we'll be kicked back out to this lobby area, and then you'll be able to use the same process to re-enter a second breakout room. Same process will follow, and then we'll come back together one more time as a large group, and then give you the link for the feedback worksheet. So that's the process for our evening. When you go into these breakout rooms, the facilitators will share with you a little bit of what we currently have planned in those 5 areas. And then the majority of the time is going to be dedicated to you to give us your feedback and your input on how do you think we've done so far? What are your thoughts or questions about that? And do you have input for other things we might consider or other areas you think we have missed? So this is where we really value your input and your time. So without further ado, I am going to stop sharing here and start moving over to our breakout rooms. So go ahead and move over to a breakout room. If you're really struggling with that, Cody Newton, our communication specialist, is going to stay in this lobby area, I'll call it, and he may be able to assist you if you're having a struggle getting into one of the rooms. And so we will be recording those rooms as well, just so you know, and then we'll be kicked out to come back here together. So go about finding your rooms and we'll meet you on the other side.
I'm Eric Chamberlain. This is my take on the ESSER funds for the environmental safety aspect of it. I'm fairly new to this. I'm kind of joining later on, new to the position. So environmental safety mainly progresses with school buildings and grounds, repairs and maintenance and upgrades. ESSER funds allow us to make significant investments that will benefit the district for decades to come. We do have some grants planned that we are pursuing, and some of these ESSER funds will match the requirements that we need to meet in order to get these grants. One of the first ones we have is the Department of Justice grant. We applied along with the Eaton County Sheriff's Department. It's required of us. New camera systems throughout the district. Ours is fairly old and outdated. Exterior sirens to warn incoming people, children that are outside, or anything of that nature. Our radio communications to be compatible with 911 operators, police, and so on. Better keyless door systems. One thing with the keyless doors, not only is it safer, faster to enter, but it's a big money saver for us. We can easily shut badges down when need be, or keys, instead of having to physically rekey. So that's a big one for us on a money saving aspect. Trauma kits in every classroom. Not something any of us want to have to think about using, but obviously we'd like them in the classroom if we needed to. There is a little more to this, but this is the main key points. So roughly the total value of this grant is just over $150,000. We would have to contribute 25% of that, which would make our outcome at $202,000 roughly. And we only have to pay $50,000. So this is a big one for us, more or less. We spend $50,000, we get $150,000 to spend to upgrade mainly security. One of the other grants,
and that 50,000 is from the ESSER 3 funds.
One of the other grants we're working on, and this one doesn't, I don't think requires ESSER funds. This is the Michigan State Police Safety Grant that we've applied for. This is mainly focused on Fuller Street. It's an outdated building. We can receive up to $50,000 per building through this, but we can receive no more than $50,000. Now, this has very strict rules of what we're allowed to spend it on, and what we're looking at right now is interior doors and exterior windows with better egress in cases of emergency. The one thing about this is, as you can see, it says this is only to be used to supplement existing funds for project expenses and cannot be used to replace existing funds that have been appropriated for this purpose. So pretty much what that says is we cannot take the money out that we already had for this and put it somewhere else. We can only supplement what we were already going to spend. Air quality. This one seems to be the big one with ESSER. So last year we upgraded our filtration system in our classrooms to improve the MERV ratings. MERV, that is the standard in which filters are measured and what they can effectively filter. They go anywhere from like a MERV 1 to I think the highest is MERV 16. Now, at the beginning of the year, we went to a MERV 13 in our classrooms and our highly populated areas. We did that mainly, we would like to have done the whole school, but it was mainly getting the filters. It wasn't so much what we spent on them, it was if we could get them. So the MERV 13 is actually what they use in most hospital buildings. And at that time, it was, they were the customer that needed the filters. So we made sure to stick to our key areas where we needed to, and stuck with the MERV 8 in the areas that we could. one of the things that we're moving towards is to put a MERV 13 everywhere in the building. And MERV 13 is rated to filter out bacteria and viruses. One time, as somebody had brought up, if it was taxing our unit ventilators and air handlers, the fans inside them, all of them have passed an amp draw test when they were manufactured to withstand any filter we put in them, more or less, that's manufactured. So I don't think that'll be a problem. We also do quarterly filter changes. That's a big one. We do them every 3 months, no matter what. And make sure that is actually what causes the biggest taxi on fans, not so much what the filter is if it's changed or not. So that's why we stick with the quarterly. Shoot. Sorry, there we go. So, anyone has any questions, I'd love to hear them. I don't have all the answers, like I said, but there will be a chance, as you can see, for the survey, and I would love to answer anything I can for you at a later date if need be.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm concerned about the FFA barn at the high school.
Okay.
If there was an emergency, there's no phone, there's no way to contact kids if they're down there for the classroom, or for them to call for emergencies. Also, there's no walkway to get there from the high school, so they're having to trudge through the yard and things like that to get there, or in the road, which is not great. I just wonder about the safety of that, for both of those things, and what, if anything, is to come of that.
So I don't have, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I can look into this for you.
Yeah.
I know there has been discussion on that, because I'm right next to Dr. B here for office. And so I've heard some of those concerns, and I believe she is starting to address those, yes. And I think part of the outdoor alarm system that you were talking about, Eric,
yep,
that would alert them down in the building if something is going awry at the high school, because that's what that's designed for. If there's students outside the building, that they need to remain somewhere outside.
Right. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. That's what I want.
And I know they're looking at, it's part of Josh's, and maybe next session, you might want to sit in Josh's section and maybe bring that up. I believe they're having a fiber run out there, so that would allow them to put telephones out there. They'll have internet
Okay.
in that as well.
Okay.
I know that we're going out for a bid for that wiring for that, all the fiber that goes with that. So,
Okay.
and I know that they're going to do a run out to there. They're doing runs out to the athletic fields.
Okay.
At all the athletic fields, I believe.
Right. Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, thank
I
you.
also know that it's been brought up, them walking to the barn. That's on all of our minds. It was actually brought up at my last physical facilities meeting, and we're brainstorming. However, it's going to be a hard one to figure out, to be honest with you. Just
Right.
being that the way the water drains, I'm sure you've noticed, what is a good way through there. I do know too that I don't know how, I guess, to be honest with you, I don't know how the class works so much. I don't know whether these kids are unattended out there, or whether the teacher's with them. That's something I'll have to look into.
Okay.
And see if I can help you figure that out. But
Yeah.
yes, I do know that there's technology heading out there.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah, and I'm not, I know, because I had the same concern when I was driving into school. I'm seeing kids walking along the side of the road, after a large snowstorm, you know, and so there wasn't much room there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that,
Right.
and so that has been addressed with Dr.
Okay.
B. So I don't know where she is on that, but I know she's heard from several people on that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. Not right now, anyway.
All right.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started because I don't have a whole lot of time, and I want to make sure that we get through the slides because I want to give you guys time to give some feedback here. That's going to be really, really important. So my name's Joel Smith, Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment at Maple Valley Schools. So just real quickly, I don't want to read all of this, but the second, I want to point out the second paragraph there. The district must use at least 20% of its ESSER funds for expenditures related to addressing the academic impact of lost instructional time. So that's what Dr. Bertolini was mentioning earlier, that of this funding that we received on a federal level, 20% of it needs to go towards addressing academic impact. And so that's kind of my role here is working with these funds to find ways to really increase student achievement, especially in regards to lost instructional time that may have happened due to the pandemic. One nice thing that Dr. B mentioned as well, you know, compared to some other districts, we were able to stay open face-to-face quite a bit. So that's been really nice, but still wanting to support students in any way we can and using these funds in that regard. On this screen, you can see we've got it kind of divided in, under 4 categories. So the first one's curriculum adoption, then we have summer school and credit recovery, grade level and department allocations, and professional development. So all of those 4 things together are really using these funds to hone in on each of those things in a way to, again, increase student achievement. So I'm going to go over quite a bit about curriculum and adoption tonight with you guys, but know that the other ones like summer school and credit recovery, you know, we are planning on running summer school for this school year at the end of the year, as well as our credit recovery that we do during the summer to help our high schoolers, you know, get some of their credits in order to graduate. Some of our funds will be used to supplement classroom and departments. And so we will take some funds and, you know, allocate some of them to, you know, like our 2nd grade team of teachers or 3rd grade or our high school English department. And then using those funds, they're going to kind of look at data. They'll be able to figure out kind of the best way to use those funds and those needs, and then kind of go from there. And then for professional development, you know, this year we focused quite a bit our MyKIP goal, which I'll talk about MyKIP later. For the district, our district-wide goal was what that means was really social emotional supports for students and staff. That was this year. Next year, we're going to focus on the academics in regards to writing. So that's what we're foreseeing as our focus. And so we're going to continue to do our thinking maps training, which we started this year, but we're really going to hit that hard next year for all of our staff to really kind of promote our writing across the board, K-12. So in regards to curriculum adoption, so in the next few years, we're going to be looking at curriculum adoption for our subjects throughout the district, including but not limited to elementary English language arts, elementary mathematics, elementary social studies, health curriculum, and then also new career and technical education programming. So the first 3 there, the English language arts, or the first 2 rather, English language arts and math, the support for our current programs is going away. So we're almost forced into a curriculum adoption because the companies aren't going to be able to support them moving forward. But that's fine because teachers are pretty excited to look at some new resources, particularly for ELA. And then elementary social studies, we're actually doing a review of that right now. And we just really don't have any solid program at the elementary level. So everyone's really excited to see what you have there. Health curriculum, looking at that. And then we're also at the high school level, really, and middle school, the junior and senior high level, trying to focus on career and technical education programming. As a matter of fact, this year, for one of our professional developments, our teachers, we visited LCC to see some of our our CTE students, and it was great. We were able to check them out doing like welding and auto shop and criminal justice, and really, applicable things that our students are really passionate about. So we're trying to really expand that, so that students can see that there's options that they have, including, post high school for college, but also other options as well. We realize that there's options all over the place, and good jobs to be made. So we're really trying to expand that CTE, starting at the junior high and then even moving on from there. So here's the process for curriculum adoption. So the first thing we do is we collect programs. So that's kind of the step one. So with our social studies, I reached out to the teachers to see if there was any particular program that they would like to see, that they were interested in. And then we collected samples of that. And then I was able to go and share them with each of the buildings and get feedback from as many teachers that were able to see them. We looked at, or we created a curriculum committee that's of staff members. We met initially to pare down our choices. So initially we had 6 curriculums that we were going to look at. 2 of them, the companies never sent anything, so that makes it pretty easy. And then of the 4 that were left there, we narrowed it down to 2. So step 3 is kind of where we're at right now. Resources are shared at each building in order to allow for input from community members. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but right now, if you were to go to Fuller Street or Maplewood, there's actually samples of the curriculums that we're looking at, and there's some input that we're looking to get from community on each one of those. So it's actually pretty cool. For step 4, we'll do a follow-up meeting with internal and external stakeholders, meaning admin, teachers. We will have some parent and student representation there for more in-depth analysis of the programs. Once we look at those 2, then the committee determines, which program we want to pilot, meaning demo or try out. And then, after that, after the demo tryout time period, the curriculum, we bring it before our school or our district improvement team, which is our MyKIP team, for approval. Then the school board approves it. And if that's the case, then we purchase the curriculum and distribute it to the staff. So I'm really, really, really excited for social studies. Like I said, we haven't had anything in the past, so this is really, really good. This here is what's called our hexagonal tool. And this is really what we use to determine whether we run all the programs through this tool there. So starting with the need, do we need it? Is there evidence that it's successful? What's the good fit? Does the program fit with us as a building, as a district, as a community? Does it fit with our values and culture? Usability, is it something that's easy for teachers and students to use? The capacity, can we afford it? Right now we're in a pretty good place for that. Do we have the staff to do it? And then supports, are there any other supports? So we run the curriculum through this, what we have, and then hopefully by the time we're done, we come up with a clear winner that we go to try and pilot for a certain amount of time. As I mentioned before, community feedback, we're really trying to increase this. I know the curriculum process has, we want to make sure that it's something that we're getting feedback from, community, from teachers, from administration. And so, as I mentioned before there, there will be samples of the programs being looked at in each of the buildings, as well as there are online samples on the web page. So if you were to go to the web page right now, you could check out the curriculum tab, and you can see that we actually have some resources available that you can see for the 2 programs we're looking at right now. So it's pretty neat. And of course, you were encouraged to hear feedback from the community there, specifically in regards to these 3 questions. How well does the curriculum align with state standards? So hoping, we can have some community members that are interested to do a little bit of research into the state standards and how they feel it aligns. How well does the curriculum match our community values, culture, and history? That's extremely important for us. We want to make sure that we have something that ties in with, who we are as Maple Valley. And then how engaging is it for students? And so it's nice to get that perspective from parents and even from students as well as, does this look like something that you would enjoy? Because that's important too. It's not, I remember when I was in school, sometimes we had those pretty dry textbooks, and it was hard to get engaged in it. So we're hoping to get a little bit more engaged. And then of course, any other feedback that we feel would be important for that. All right, I'm gonna actually speed up a little bit because I want to make sure that we get time for you guys. So I just want to talk real briefly about our Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, MyKIP. So this is something that the state of Michigan, it's a process that we go through in order to set goals, whether they're academic, behavioral, social, emotional goals, to try and assess whole child needs and develop plans and coordinate funding for that. So we utilize what's called a MyKIP team to address those goals and set strategies. And the team consists of representation from administrators, teachers, and I'm going to be reaching out to see if we can get some community members on there, because we should have community members and parents and students on part of that team as well. So pretty important piece of the way that things are functioning and how we set our goals and achieve those. All right, so good. We got about 4 minutes left, so I want to hear from you guys. I want to get your input. I have a document up here. I'm going to take some notes on some things that you guys, if you have questions I can answer here, good. If there's any other input that you want to give as far as what you'd like to see, how have we done so far, any questions, what areas that maybe that we've missed, please let me know. So yeah, I'll open up the floor there for anyone who wants to open their mic or type.
I have a question.
Sure.
Well, I actually have two questions. Number one, of course, being part of the music department, does curriculum include supplies like instruments, etc., so on and so forth for like the special classes?
Yep. So part of the part of the grade level and department allocations is going to be like our elective classes as well. We'll be offering money for them in order to support the work that they're doing in the classes too. Not offering money, but we'll be allocating funds.
Right, gotcha. It was just curriculum versus equipment, I guess, I just didn't know if that's one and the same kind of deal.
Yeah, well, not necessarily, but as far as curriculum adoption, that's kind of the first thing there. But for grade level and department allocations, we're kind of leaving it up to the teachers in the department to professionally look at things and see kind of what sort of needs they have in order to increase achievement, whether it's in ELA or even in music. So I mean, if that does mean more instruments to achieve better in music, that makes sense to me. So that would fall under that for sure.
Okay, gotcha. And then my other quick question is there like a community-wide effort to, like, for instance, in a previous situation, it was like there wasn't a lot of communication between like the boots on the ground people. And then so like, we have our priority list of things that we would like, and someday out there wishful thinking the best of the best stuff, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I also wonder, like, is there like a kind of group effort of like people saying like, hey, I could totally pause my thing because your thing is more important. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so typically when we look at well, here, let me are you talking in regards to like curriculum, individual curriculum?
I'm just talking about, yeah, like when it comes to curriculum or stuff that's needed to, like gym class, if they needed new nets or whatever it might be to.
Are you kind of saying like creating a hierarchy of need? So which is
Yeah.
the most important for us to use this funds for at this time?
Yeah, but like in a team effort, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
like if the music department, like if we really like, we would love something, but if it's not like super critical and like somebody else literally doesn't have something, and I was just curious how that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, we're in a really good spot right now where we've been allocated quite a bit of funds. So within the next 2 years, we're really looking to speak to all departments to see if there's something that they need. I have this slide I'm sharing with you now. I kind of hit it because I would worried I was going to run out of time, but typically we run out of like a 5-year rotation where, year one, we look at X number of classes, certain classes, then the next year we look at other ones, and then it kind of rotates throughout the 5 years. But if we find a need, yeah, we're looking to play nice in the sandbox for sure.
Perfect.
So right now they're mainly only looking at the Fuller Street and Maplewood curriculum, correct?
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, so back on this tab here, we only got like 20 seconds, unfortunately, but actually, once the meeting's done, if you guys still want to talk about curriculum when this whole thing's done, I'll stay on. But yeah, because those are kind of our big needs. But like we will still be looking at the high school and meeting to see if they need something. So we'll be talking to the department heads, but most of our need right now is like code red at the elementary. Thank you guys so much for joining. Kara, Victoria, appreciate you taking the time out of your night to come and give some good feedback and help us out here as we look to put these funds to good use and to support kids. So thank you so much. I got quite a bit to go over here, so I'm gonna try and get through it because I want to dedicate most of the time here for you guys to give some feedback and ask some questions and things like that. So I'm going to be talking about curriculum and instruction here. I'm not going to read all of this, but I do want to point out that in the second paragraph, the district must use at least 20% of its ESSER funds for expenditures related to addressing the academic impact of lost instructional time through the implementation of evidence-based interventions. And so they list some examples there. So we've been, as Dr. B mentioned in the main meeting, we've been in a pretty good spot in that we haven't had to close our building as nearly as much as other districts close their buildings. So that's put us in a good spot. And so we want to continue with that and use these funds to really support students and any learning loss that they may have had when we did close, and really try to increase student achievement. And so you'll see here that ESSER funds to address learning loss, really they kind of fall under 4 categories under the curriculum wing here. So the first one is curriculum adoption. So we're going to be spending some time looking at data to see where maybe we have some need for curriculum adoption, and then moving forward to find some ways to support through adopting new curriculum. Summer school and credit recovery. So the plan is we're still going to run our summer school just as we did last year. Really, what I've heard, a great success. People really enjoyed it, liked it. And so we're going to continue with that at the elementary and junior high level, and then also have our credit recovery for the high school for students that may be behind in credits. They can use that time to get caught up so they can become on track to graduate. So we're going to continue with that. Grade level and department allocations. And so we're going to use the funds to each grade level team at the elementary level, whether it's the kindergarten team of teachers, first grade, second, all the way to the 6th grade team of teachers, or at the high school, we have our departments, our English department, our math department, our CTE department. So they'll kind of come together and look at data to determine, what sorts of needs they have. And then each department will be allocated a certain amount of funds to really address those needs at a very specific level within the department. So we're excited to see what kind of things they can come up with in that regard. And then in regards to professional development, we're going to continue with our focus on K-12 writing. So we did quite a bit of that this year. This year, our big focus was on social emotional supports for students and staff. And so next year, we're going to really hone in on, the K-12 writing with our Thinking Maps training, which we began this year. In regards to curriculum adoption, so in the next few years, we're going to be looking at curriculum adoption for our subjects throughout the district. So I have a list here of the ones that are really front and center on our list of things that we need to look at. Elementary English language arts and elementary mathematics. Those are front and center simply due to the fact that they're not going to be supported anymore by the vendors, by the companies. And so we'll need to, and they're kind of forcing our hand in finding new ones, which is fine, especially for ELA. But math, I know the teachers really like the Go Math at the elementary level, but I'm interested to see what we see for some of the other offerings. Elementary social studies, we're currently doing that right now. The social studies portion, we're in curriculum review for that. That one we had to just simply because we don't have an elementary social studies really. It's been kind of all over the place. Unfortunately, the teachers have had to kind of grab things here and there. And so we're looking for something to be a little more solidified, a little more consistent K-6. So excited about that. We've narrowed it down to two programs that we really like. So, and then health curriculum needs to be reviewed every few years. So that's certainly going to be on there. And then we're we're really wanting to focus on career and technical education programming. That's one of the big things that we want to look at is, trying to expand our offerings. I mean, yeah, we realize that English is important, math's important, but, for some of our students, learning to weld is just actually probably more important than those things. So we really want to focus and expand on that for our, our junior high, starting at the junior high and even the high school level, and find ways to really support kids and with new experiences that will help them as they, graduate and move on to different things. I did want to note on there that, for a lot of these things, aside from the last two, they seem elementary. We're still going to be looking at the high school, the junior, senior high. It's just those were kind of the big ones. But as we look at the data and as we meet with the department heads, we'll see kind of what's different areas we have at the junior, senior high that need that are good for curriculum review. Our adoption process here. So kind of a 6-step process. The first thing we do is collect programs. So what I do is I compile a list of available programs, big programs. I ask teachers for their input as far as programs they'd like to see, they'd like to review, and then I collect those. So I did that for our social studies. Next step is a curriculum committee is formed of staff from each building. So reach out and get some people that are willing to look at some of these curriculums and make some decisions on that. And so what we did was we initially had 6 curriculums. Well, supposed to have 6. 2 of them the vendors never even sent them. So by default we had 4. And so of those 4 we looked at them and we narrowed them down to 2 that we really like. So step 3 is kind of where we're at in the process right now. Looking for community input. And so the resources for each of those curriculums that we have right now for social studies, if you were to go to Fuller Street or Maplewood, you would find actually samples of those in the front office that you'd be able to look at. And then we're looking for feedback from community. It's also on the website. And so really trying to get community feedback before we move into the next step, which is step 4. So that's going to be a follow-up meeting with internal and external stakeholders. So admin, teachers, parents and student representatives for a more in-depth analysis of the programs that we have. Hopefully, as we do that, we kind of determine one of that we really like, and then we put it through our step 5, our pilot program. So we determine which one we want to pilot, which is kind of, it's a way of like trying it out. So that's, we try it out for a few months or for however long and see if we like it. And then if we do, step 6, the curriculum is brought before our MyKIP team, which is our district improvement team for approval. Once it's approved there, then the school board approves it, and then we purchase it and distribute it to the staff. So we're really excited, that we're going to be able to get some new curriculum, especially social studies. Like I said, the elementary hasn't had that, and so they're really happy that we're going to be moving in that direction. This here is our hexagon tool, and this really shows. This is what we put the curriculum through. This is kind of the rubric we use. So we first look at, what is the need that we have as a district for that particular curriculum. Evidence, what are some evidence that we have that it works? So a little bit of research there. Fit, we look, does it fit with our community, with our values, the culture and history? We want something that really fits with Maple Valley. Is it usable? So is it usable for the teachers, for the students, for the parents? Something that's easy to use. Our capacity to do it, can we afford it? Right now we're in a good spot for that, but also, moving forward, is it something we can afford after, we don't have access to ESSER funds, or do we have the staff for it? And then these supports that they might have, right? Do they have good professional development for the teachers in that regard? As I mentioned before, community feedback, I mean, it's so huge as part of the curriculum adoption process. It should be, and we want to make sure that we make that a strong aspect, a strong tie. So as I mentioned before, there's samples of each program right now at the elementary buildings, as well as on the web page. We encourage community members we're going to encourage them to examine the materials, provide feedback. Specifically, we're looking for feedback in regards to these 3 questions. How well does the curriculum align with state standards? So we're hoping that some parents and maybe even some students take a little bit of time to look at the standards and then compare them. How well does the curriculum match our community values, culture, and history? As I mentioned before, that's extremely important to us. We want this to be a curriculum that really matches who we are as Maple Valley. And then how engaging does the curriculum look to be for students? Also a huge deal. We want something that's going to be engaging, that the kids are going to enjoy, something that's fun. I remember when I was in in school, and they had these real dry, boring, books. And it's like, well, we have something that can be a little bit more engaging than that. And then any other feedback that, community feels would be important, we definitely want to collect that. And then we share it with the curriculum adoption committee as we move forward, and use some of that feedback, or all that feedback rather, to inform our decision. I want to take a real brief moment to talk about the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement process. We call it MICIP. So this is from the state of Michigan. It's a process that all districts are going through to kind of create goals and set strategies to meet goals, to kind of assess whole child needs, and then develop plans and figure out how we're going to meet those things. These goals can be academic, behavior, social, emotional. So this year, as I mentioned, our goal is social emotional. Next year, we're looking at something a little bit more academic. And the team consists of representation from administrators, teachers, and community members. So I'll be reaching out to the community here shortly to see if we can get some people that would be interested to be part of this team, because we want the input there and their representation as well. All right, so we've got a little less than 4 minutes, but I really want your input on some of these things. So I'm going to kind of open up the floor here to see if there's any questions you have, or what have we done so far that how have we done so far, or is there what areas maybe have we missed that we could do a little bit better on. So do you want open up your mic and I'll answer questions, or input? I'm going to take some notes here on my computer. It's just you and me, Kara. I thought there was someone else in here.
Nice. Okay.
You have any questions? Yeah, we can make this a lot more informal than that.
No, right. Yeah, no, I don't have any questions, but I really am intrigued on, looking into the curriculum that's at the buildings. And I really like the thought of implementing some of the CTE, some newer programs being offered. That sounds really cool. And I like the thought of the social studies being implemented too. I like that too. This is a lot of work, and I appreciate everything that you've done to get this going.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So I shared a new screen. Can you see that now?
Yeah.
This is it's the website. Is that what you're seeing?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So if you go to the website under our district and then curriculum and courses, so that takes you to this page here. And then when you scroll down, there's this tab here. It says current curriculum under review. So we'll keep up as we're looking at stuff. Yeah. And so we want to hear feedback. And so this first one, Social Studies Alive from TCI, that's one of our companies. And so, if someone were to click this, did it change to a preview of the book? I just want to make sure because I can't see what I'm sharing.
It did.
Yep.
Yes, it did. Yep.
So this is one of the grade levels. I think this is first grade. And so, a parent or whomever would be able to kind of flip through and see what this looks like. So
yeah. Okay, great.
So that's like this book here. This is just, it's a digital kind of version, but this is kind of, but anyways, yeah. So it'd be pretty neat. Kids write in it, and so we're excited about this.
Yeah,
They're
that's
a little more
really
engaging than when I was in school in social studies, So
exactly.
Yep. And then they can look at the other impact social studies, the other books there, and then we have a form that parents would fill out, so they put their name. And then they can kind of put whatever there.
Yeah.
And then they go through and they kind of score it. Just randomly put some things in before just to kind of see, and then they can give feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of a
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get some pretty good feedback from that. So hopefully that can help us.
And when is this going to be implemented? Is it within the next 2 years, you said, or?
Like social studies specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, we're hoping for something sooner than that. The problem is sometimes you're at the mercy of the vendors.
Yeah.
Like we want someone to present it to our teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of them can't meet till April. So we're hoping that by April we can figure something out, and then maybe we'll start next year with a pilot.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then, then next year we're looking probably at ELA and math for elementary too. Like I said before, it's, we're not going to support it anymore. So
Very cool.
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. This is really, really cool. Thank you so much for all that information.
Very, very welcome. So it looks like our room's about to close. So again,
Okay.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, I'm going to get started on showing what's going on here with technology and E-rate. So I want to kind of start off with the fact what E-rate actually is. You guys can see that presentation all right. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So as we continue to keep our district mission and vision in mind, one of the things that we've got to constantly do is make sure that we've got our technology up to date. Currently, we have a big project that wraps up today, and the bids are open tomorrow. And so I wanted to bring up this E-rate project and what E-rate is. E-rate is a federal funded project, and in this case, it's Category 2. Category 2 are the services needed to be enabled, high-speed broadband connectivity, and our internal connections and components. So that's some pretty hardcore nerd speak for our cabling, for the wireless access points, for the network switches, the backbone infrastructure for our entire network. The cool thing with E-rate Category 2 is that is based on an 80% to 20% funding, where we currently get to apply based on our count at the beginning of the year. And from that number, the federal portion paid is 80%, and we will cover the other. For this current project that I'm looking at for the network infrastructure, we're going to have hardware. In this case, we've replaced a server. We're going to replace all of our switches. We're going to replace all of our wireless access points and the controllers. We're going to do some external cabling, such as run fiber out to the concession stands and football stadium. We're going to run fiber out to the press box at Maplewood, and we are also going to run fiber out to the concession stand at the Fuller Field. And then internal cabling that we've got going on is going to have to do with access points that weren't hooked up originally in areas that are dead, some areas that need some drops where we would hardline computers, and those types of things. So what's really nice there is we're looking at approximately $160,000 project, and Maple Valley would be looking at only having to cover $32,000 of that. What's nice as well with that program is this is something that would have to be done anyway and can happen anytime. And so what's cool is we use the ESSER funds, or look to use the ESSER funds that would cover that $32,000, where we would be able to stay away a little bit more from our general funds with this project. Ongoing projects, which also would happen whether or not we had the ESSER funds, would be our general replacement cycle. And this is just a super brief list of the things that we would see in the tech realm, but would be some of the higher cost items. Staff workstations would be all the desktops that the teachers use to log in. We would also be looking at the staff laptops, which in this case we use Chromebooks. We have the lab workstations. So we have a lab at Fuller, we have a lab at Maplewood, and then we have almost 5 labs at the high school. With our current projects that we're looking at, we would lower the number of labs at the high school, but we would need to replace all of those machines. Some of them we would be replacing even the monitors, keyboards, mice, and those types of things. Every classroom and some other rooms have projectors, and we would be looking at a rotation cycle where we would replace a certain amount of those or a building's worth of those each year, and then document cameras. So again, those are some of the higher dollar items. And when you see the price of some of them, like a document camera at $100, not as big of a thought. But when you realize that we have approximately 60 of those in the district, maybe more, we start to see that cost rise. And so all of those would be general replacements, and again, have to do with our funds that would be used. And in this case, ESSER will be able to be used for some of those things. Upcoming projects, I've got quite a few of these, and these are always nice. We've got security cameras being replaced in all of the district. Currently, we do have a grant that is that I applied for with Dr. B, that we were able to solidify $125,000 towards this project, which would not come out of ESSER, would not come out of general funds. It's a Department of Justice grant that we were able to receive. And then we may, but most likely not, have to get into the ESSER or general funds to deal with any of the other extras with this, because we did a pretty tight quote on what this would cost. But included in that, we would also be adding, not just replacing door access cameras with audio, kind of like the Ring security you can put at your house, but a little fancier for all of our offices. We'd be looking at upgraded quality of all of our cameras, better coverage. We'd be adding some cameras to areas that were not covered at all. And then lastly, we'd be working closely with Eaton County, especially, to make sure they had accessibility to these cameras in case of any emergencies. We're looking at security cameras for all of our buses. Currently, our buses have security cameras, but some buses have 2, some buses have 1, some have 3, but only 1 works. And we've been working to repair those as best we can, but it's a pretty archaic system. So we are looking to use ESSER funds to outfit our buses with 3 cameras. So we would have coverage in the front, in the middle, and the back that would show everything within. And we would also have audio coverage within the buses. Yet again, we'd be looking at upgraded quality, wireless uploads to our existing camera system. Currently, we have to go and pull a hard drive out of a bus, plug it in, and then go from there to find the footage we need. With this, the buses would be able to pull into the bus garage. All of their footage would be automatically uploaded to the system. And then that benefits the district is then all of our administration would have access to those, and it wouldn't be a single person's job to go figure it out. So good things happening there. At the junior senior high, and not just limited there, but this is a big wing that we have there. It covers 50% of our district as far as of our students. We're looking at 7th through 12th grade, and we want to make sure that we're using the best, our space for the best use as possible. So currently, like I said, we have 4 computer labs, 32 computers in each. We have another wing or another room in this area that has 30 Chrome boxes, so just a Chrome lab itself. And then we have another lab that was laptop based and is mostly storage / space for our DECA program. So we would be looking at dropping down to 2 full computer labs, but we would be replacing them with upgraded workstations. We'd be installing and using CTE, our career tech specific software, CAD-based softwares like SketchUp, Tinkercad, VCarve Pro is used in our wood shop. There are many other things, but we're not pushing forward until we really know what else we'd be adding. We have wish lists, and in that wish list, we would also be looking for things like web design, programming, video editing software, and a handful of other things. So it would be applicable to especially a lot of the careers that are out there today. So that would be 2 of our 6 rooms in that area. We'd be looking at taking one of those rooms and completely reconstructing it into a robotics lab. We've in the past had a robotics team, and on that robotics team, we were able to do some things, but we never had a dedicated space. Realizing we got about 5 minutes left, I'm going to just kind of zip through these. So upgraded laptops, robotic equipment, parts, pieces, tools, and then just a building and testing area that would give them a space. We're looking for an Industry 4.0 grant, which is a complete CTE investigation / curriculum. Right now, it's a $90,000 curriculum that is grant funded. Eaton RESA is looking to install this in 1 district, and then also work to supply it and add it to another, all the other districts as well. We're pushing to be that initial district where we can have that wow factor, show it off, and get our kids going on it earlier than later. And now would be that time. If anybody has questions answers or any input about the technology in the district. I think with just the three of us, Logan and Katie, if you've got anything, if you'd like to just unmute. Do you have any questions or answers that you're looking for that you'd like clarification on, or any other areas in the district where you would see input necessary as far as technology goes?
Just out of curiosity, Josh, can you tell me what CTE programs besides ag and wood shop that we currently have?
Yeah, for sure. The ones that I know, especially at the high school, like you've already mentioned, is we do have ag. Currently, that CTE program, Mr. Sari has been developing a little bit bigger. He's got current 2-hour block where he is doing a CT agricultural business model. So he's teaching business within ag. He's also teaching plant animal biology, which is covered in science credit, but can also dabble in the realm of CTE. We have Mr. Siebold, who is working through Woods, who just added a 2-hour block for construction trades. And there they're doing a lot of either hands-on, but he'd like to work into that realm of the CAD design as well for VCarve Pro. So they'd be using CNC machines. We have our business program through Dio, an accounting program through Mrs. Dio. She's doing a marketing program. And so we've got a lot of business CTE classes integrated as well. And then currently what we're looking to do is we are adding a posting for a full-time CTE hire, because we're hoping to add, whether it's HTML coding, we're looking at offering, let's see, a video production class, possibly an intro to computer science, and somebody that's more hands-on with the computer-based stuff. And then the last thing is, if we can't necessarily find somebody there, or they offer some other things, Cody Newton, our communications specialist, we're hoping to work on a potential emergency, or an expert certification, where he'd be able to dabble in some of those classes and teach from his aspect what he does as well. Are there any other CTE things that you can think of that we should be looking into, or maybe I missed?
Ironically, I'm having technical difficulties in the technology session. Anyway, no, I think that sounds like Maple Valley's doing a great job with CTE programming. It sounds like there's a lot of options for kids. I'm excited to hear about all the new things coming up.
Yeah, that's one of the cool ones that Eaton Risa does have, is that Industry 4.0. I spoke super briefly to it. Mr. Smith is working with that in the super near future. And they like I said, it's $90,000 worth of, and it's not just, hey, this is college based, it's career based for sure. They had the mobile lab come out. I don't know if you know about that, but I mean, we were talking, they were teaching welding, they were teaching construction trades, automobile repair. And a lot of those, I mean, as much as I didn't share those wouldn't be specific to here, except a little dabble here and there, but a full curriculum where they learn about them. We do send the kids out for those potential classes at LCC, Davenport, and anywhere we can get them working on those things. So those are also areas that we're really pushing. So that was good, because there's a lot of info in there. So Logan, Hillary, or Katie, even if do you have anything else? It looks like we got about 50 seconds before we wrap up and get to do a whole swap again.
I'm all set. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. All right. Well, 30 seconds. You guys are more than welcome to bounce out of this meeting and just kind of prep. I've got to go back there as well and set up the second break room. So if you guys are good, I'm good. I'm going to head back and we will pick up from there. So, yep, I'm just going through technology and E-rate as it pertains to how we're planning on using the ESSER funds. At this point, the goal is to continue to stick with our district mission and district vision, and technology is playing a huge part in that. We've got a lot going on coming up. currently in motion, and then ongoing throughout multiple years. So E-rate has been a big buzzword this year because we are working into our first replacement cycle as it pertains to our network infrastructure. And what's nice is there are categories out there within what we call E-rate funding. And category 2 has to do with the services that are needed to enable high-speed broadband connectivity and broadband internal connection components. That being said, we're looking at wireless access points, their controllers, the network infrastructure as far as switches, cabling, fiber cabling, and the works. What's really nice and a huge part that needs to be addressed is the federal government pays a portion of that, and based on our socioeconomic status, it's an 80-20% variant. What's nice there is it's also based on our student count, and so current count allows us to do an E-rate category 2 project up to $160,000, which means Maple Valley would only be looking at paying approximately $30,000 to $32,000 for that project if we go that high in the funding or the spending. So we are looking at a current project which closed today as far as our bids went, and we will be choosing a company tomorrow to start this upgrade for our network infrastructure, and that has to do with replacing internal servers, the switches, the wireless access points, and their controllers. Currently, we're looking at external cabling. That one specifically has to do with running fiber out to the football field, the concession stand, so that when we take classes out there, the classes would be able to work again from the stands, or they would be able to do some things with the PE classes. But then our staff that are taking them out there would have access to take attendance. The students can take their Chromebook books out there and work, and so on. And then the same thing is happening both at the baseball diamond and the soccer field at Fuller, so that those areas can be used. We do a lot of mileage club, and that would allow the staff to have devices necessary out there and work through things while still managing their classes. Internal cabling, we have a handful of places within the district that need to have internet and they don't, or it's very weak. Concession stand area at the high school inside, the weight room at the high school, a couple of classrooms, a couple of offices, the brick and mortar at the district really blocks out the coverage that we can get. And so we've got some places we're going to add them, a couple places at Maplewood, and then Fuller as well. There's a few places that we want to make sure we get overall coverage with our wireless internet. So we've got some internal cabling that's got to be put out there. Have ongoing projects coming up. This is our general replacement cycle, covers a lot of what's in here. There's a lot of tinier things, cables that maybe cost $5 to $10 a piece. And so not everything is listed in our replacement cycle. But this would all come out of the idea of this has to happen with ESSER or without ESSER. And so we want to make sure that we are using the funds that we have to the best of our abilities. And there are things that we would potentially not be able to get unless we can use some of those extra funds. So staff workstations every 5 to 7 years have to be swapped out. The desktops they use in their room, their laptops that they use, the Chromebooks would have to be swapped out every 5 years. The lab workstations for students, again, 5 to 7 years, and we finally hit that point. Student Chromebooks, when we're looking at one-to-one, especially in the district, we want to start getting into a point where we're replacing those every 5 years, but it's going to be a fifth of the stock. And so we would be looking to do that. And then teachers, administration, office assistants, and just everybody staff-wide are going to need day-to-day technology that we would want to make sure we get on a cycle. And then in the classroom, we've got projectors and document cameras that would need to be replaced. And we're looking again to push that out building to building and not do it all at one time like we could with the bond. So we've got to get in an annual yearly cycle. And so those funds will help there. Upcoming projects we've got going down are going to be security camera upgrade in all buildings. What's really nice here is we were able to, Dr. Bertolini, myself, and a couple other administrators work together to write a federal Department of Justice grant. And in that grant, my portion was dealing with our security cameras, and I was able to, I was rewarded $125,000. And so that should cover almost this entire project, if not the whole thing. But again, if we need to look for things that were out of that budget, we would definitely work some of those funds in. So things that we already have in place are security cameras almost everywhere, but we would be adding them to our door access areas so that our administrative assistants would be able to see who's at the door, speak with them before we're letting in. So we would be addressing safety, upgraded quality of the cameras so that we're actually able to see who people are and it's not pixelated or blurry. Better coverage. We have some areas where we might have cameras that cover a certain angle of view, and we're going to be upgrading that or adding more cameras. And lastly, we're going to get in touch with Berry and Eaton County First Response, especially our police departments, so that they would be able to access those on a need-to basis, so that for security reasons and an accessibility from their VPNs from outside the district. So we're adding cameras to all buses. When I say adding, it's not that we don't have bus cameras, but the current system, some buses have one, some have two. The quality is definitely old and outgraded. So we're gonna be looking at putting 3 cameras on each bus and including audio recording. The quality will be much better. We would be covering every seat in the bus and have access again as we move through that, where the buses would pull in, and instead of having to go to the bus, pull an actual physical device out of the bus to take it inside, connect to a computer and watch. As the buses pull in, they're actually going to wirelessly upload their footage. And what will be nice there is that will all be accessible by our district administration. So again, bringing multiple hands on deck instead of a singular person being responsible for just that. So at the junior senior high school, we have an entire computer lab wing currently that has 6 classrooms. 4 of those classrooms are PC computer labs, 30 to 32 devices in each room. We have a Chromebox lab with 30 Chromebox workstations. And then we have a lab that used to be a laptop lab, which is now extra technology-based storage as far as printers, a lot of things that DECA uses for their entrepreneurship. So we would be looking at getting rid of some of the computer labs, but keeping 2 of them, upgrading the workstations, making sure they have upgraded hardware and software. And then we would be looking at installing multiple CTE specific softwares. In this case, CAD software, where they can do 3D design and printing. Tinkercad does the same thing. We'd be working with VCarve Pro, which is an extension of our Woods program for CNC. And then much more. We'd be looking at hopefully installing video editing software on more than just a couple computers like we currently have, but turning it into an all-purpose 2 sets of labs. We would be taking one of the rooms and taking out the current items that are in it, not just computers, and just replacing that with an entire robotics workstation and lab. So we would be putting in upgraded laptops, robotics equipment. So anywhere from the base robot to all of the parts and pieces used to upgrade and design that. And then just having tools and testing area for everything else. We're working with Eaton Risa currently as they're pushing to, again, pump the CTE. Last year, they had a mobile CTE lab that went out and showed kids about welding, talked about construction trades, talked about auto body repair, and lots of other career-based fields. They are pushing out and working with us and other districts in our consortium on trying to get a $90,000 Industry 4.0 curriculum and investigations class. We're hoping to be on the front end of that so that we can be the first group, if we're lucky, to push that out. And that is a full curriculum, and it would be fully covered. Do have it in here with the ESSER project, because if there are any things that we need to supplement or there's upgrades to that room that are not within that, it would most likely be smaller end stuff, but we want to make sure that we really deck this room out. So that being said, the last thing I would just ask if there's any thoughts or questions or input that you have.
We have a student question.
Okay.
What's going on with the radios? Do they know
Ask
anything?
a question.
Do you know anything about what's going on with the radios, or is that still all up in the air?
The radios are addressed by our environmental safety group, which is Mr. Chamberlain, our transportation and maintenance director. And so that is also within that Department of Justice grant that I spoke to. And Mr. Chamberlain was working towards that. As far as what's taking place, it's currently not in motion, but the money has been awarded to us for that upgrade.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think we have any further questions.
All right. One more thing that is not in the presentation that I will speak to, and that's been a current project, would be our esports lab. That is up in the air as far as we have to make sure that with board approval, we'll be able to join and start working on an esports team, which falls under MHSAA guidelines. It would go through any other, just like any other sport, where our athletic director would work with other athletic directors out in the district and other districts to see if they want to compete. But it is looked at just like any other sport, where it is 1-on-1, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 6-on-6 video gaming, and all kinds of competitions, just like you would see in athletics. So we are working to take one of our labs and convert it into an esports lab. Some of that would potentially be with this funding. Some of it would be grant funded, but again, multiple ways that we'd be looking to secure those funds to put that in. But if you don't have anything else, I'm going to go ahead and close this room just because I have to get back and run the other room, and we will go from there. Any just to make sure, any other questions or concerns that you have?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, what the state of Michigan has realized is that we have seen a tremendous amount of increase in our children's anxiety, depression, frustration, ability to manage, and they've just really been taken out of their normal mode as developmentally. So the state is putting a real high premium on doing what they call whole child work. And whole child work is a concept that's been around for a long time. And this graphic really explains it quite well. At the core of whole child work is this idea of social emotional learning. And first I should check, can you see this slide that says, okay, great. This core is social emotional learning at the core of our child. And then the 5 areas around that are what we tend to teach in a social emotional learning curriculum. So self-awareness, how am I feeling? Am I in tune with my own thoughts and emotions? Can I manage those thoughts and emotions? Am I able to make responsible decisions? Am I able to have good relationships with others, with other children, with adults? And am I aware of social cues and how I interact with my world? So if that's the core of our kids and about all successful humans, really, that exists within the child within a classroom. And then the classrooms exist within the context of a school, within their families, and within the greater community. So that's the idea. You don't just really look at one element, but you think of it in terms of the whole child, because that child comes from somewhere. They come from families, they come from the community of Maple Valley, they come from lots of different places. And so when you look at what social emotional programming is, it's the idea that we're going to create structure for how we think about those kind of concepts with our children. So there's been a lot of confusion in the media. A lot of people aren't really sure what it is. So I just made a slide here to talk about what is SEL and what isn't SEL. And basically, it's just the skills we need to be successful as adults. Resilience, how do we stick to things, stick-to-itiveness and grit, goal setting, emotional management, empathy, kindness, and problem-solving abilities. It's also helping to plan for the future. The state of Michigan has an expectation of all schools now that starting in kindergarten all the way through grade 12, at developmentally appropriate points, we're giving kids an idea of an educational development plan, trying to help kids understand how do you best learn? How do you best think about things? So we capture all of that in a program called Zello. And then the kids are also getting career awareness. And so we're trying to expand lots of possibilities for kids through the use of this Zello platform. Kids can explore jobs in a variety of ways and learn, like, what's a day on the job like for a pipe fitter? What's a day on the job like for a mechanic? What's a day on the job like for a teacher? And then they can have a look at what those jobs are like and what the outlook is for those jobs. So that's a big piece of what is required by the state, and then what an SEL program looks like. What it isn't a judgment of people's family values, mores, or norms at all. This is not something that's like in lieu of what parents are naturally teaching their children for their own homes. It's also not critical race theory. And I bring that up because some people have been kind of confused. They think critical race theory and SEL are the same thing, and they're not. Critical race theory is not something that we're teaching in the Valley. It's not something we will ever teach in the Valley because it's really not a K-12 curriculum thing. Critical race theory is actually a graduate level theoretical construct. I'm talking like a professor again, but it was used to examine economic inequities and opportunities that inequity might hinge on based on race. And so that really has no place in a K-12 curriculum or a K-12 system. So it's not that at all. But I think a lot of that's been confusing for people. So if there are any questions about that, I hope that comes up during Q&A so I can help clarify. It also is not a mandatory program. Unlike the Michigan Merit Scholarship or Michigan Merit requirements to graduate, this is not a requirement that kids have to engage. The career readiness piece, I believe all children do, but not necessarily the SEL program. However, I really hope that parents, if they're going to ask to opt out their kiddos from getting this SEL work, would review the curriculums first, and we'll make sure that they're available in our school offices for people to take a look at them. So programs we're looking at right now, we K-12 are using Zello, as I mentioned, for EDP, career readiness, and awareness training. K-6 is piloting a program called Second Step, but we're also looking at Character Strong, which is another one. 7 through 8 is piloting a program called Trails that comes out of the University of Michigan, and that's 20 lessons a year, basically twice a month. And the counselor or social worker pushes into either a science class or a social studies class at 7th and 8th grade level. And we're looking at a feasibility study now for having a 6-period day, adding an advisory so that we have time for the 9 through 12 students to get some SEL as well. But we didn't have that this year. So we're just piloting things right now to try and get some exposure to them, see what we think of those. And then we're going to be narrowing those options down, reviewing those options using a hexagon tool that Mr. Smith is going to be talking about. So if you want to know about curriculum and how we pick curriculum, Mr. Smith's going to be speaking to that in his room. But we are going to be narrowing these things down, and then with community input, staff input, and then the presentation to the board will determine which ones we adopt officially. So we are going to keep those available, but that's basically where we are with SEL. So switching topics now, staff retention. ESSER 3 allows for funding to be applied for staff retention and maintaining staff. And this is something that's become even more important for 2 reasons. One, incredible stress has been put upon all of us that use the educational system, from our teachers to our kiddos, to their families, to our communities at large, really. And that's had a toll. A lot of people are really, really exhausted and burnt out and thinking about other options for careers. So we're recognizing we need some compensation to address that. Another thing is so many things were disrupted that it's just really amped up teachers' disequilibrium, if you will. And so we're trying to think, how can we be responsive to that in ways that make a difference for teachers? This is also important because long before COVID, we were in the midst of a teacher shortage, and COVID has exacerbated that problem. If you've read any of my articles or you've seen what we've been doing, we don't have enough teachers to teach many subjects. We have a lot of teachers. We're trying to grow our own in special education, for example. We have a position we couldn't even fill this year in social studies that we had to ask other teachers to pick up and teach extra so that we could cover that class. So it's just really difficult to get teachers. And there used to be, when I came out, I was competing against 100 other people for a teaching position. Now, if we get one candidate, we feel really excited that we can even host an interview. So we are definitely in a teacher shortage, and we're being mindful about that as well. And in giving us this grant, they're realizing that retaining staff is really important. So we're currently in negotiations with both groups, our support staff group and our teacher union group, to determine what makes the most sense and what is going to be motivational, what's going to help keep people in the district. Because what really matters is experience. Experienced teachers, it's been proven over and over again, get much better learning results from their students. So we don't want to have churn and burn with teachers. We want to keep the experienced, excellent ones we have, keep growing our new ones. And then we also don't want to lose their knowledge of our community. They know what our community is about. They understand our kids. And anytime a teacher leaves, they take all that knowledge and understanding of our kids with them. So we want to work really hard to keep our teachers here, keep our support staff here, and let them all know how valuable they are to us. So that is where we're working with staff retention right now. So that really is all I had to share in terms of giving information. So Greg, if you want to open your mic, Kelly, if you want to open your mic, we're a small enough group. If we get any echo, I might ask you to close your mic while somebody else talks, but feel free to open your mic and ask me any questions or give me any input you want to share.
Well, hi, Dr. B. I'm from the Hastings Banner. I was directed by editor Rebecca about this event, but just interested in your thoughts about about your staffing situation with your teachers at Maple Valley. And you mentioned just a moment ago about you had one teaching position you couldn't fill in social studies because was that at the secondary level?
Yeah, that was secondary level. It was in social studies and English.
Okay. And
so we dispersed that among like our existing staff and reconfigured some of the classrooms so that we could make it still work.
So you're hoping, would it be a goal of maybe using some of the ESSER funds to maybe add staffing perhaps, possibly? Is that a possibility?
Yes. And in the second session, if you join Trent Harvey's room, yep. Trent is going to be talking about our intervention coaches. So we're having interviews for that next week. As a matter of fact, this will be for next year. So we're finishing out this year with the staff we currently have. But in the fall, we're going to be hoping to have 2 intervention coaches, and their jobs will be to look at all of our data, because we assess our students 3 times a year, and then see like what areas of reading do we need to really work on, because you might be familiar, Greg, with 3rd grade reading law a little bit.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so that has been suspended quite a bit, or like tweaked during COVID, but the expectations of it are still there. So going forward, we still need to do the individual reading improvement plans with our students. We still need to make sure that we're following them until they test at grade level and are doing well there. So the idea of having these intervention coaches working with them is we'll be able to do smaller group instruction, definitely for remediating, getting kids back up to speed where they need to be, but it also frees up the teacher to do accelerated learning with kids that are doing really great already. And then also maybe a para to work in that room. So, we're hopeful we're going to have enough staffing to do like a 3-pronged effort so that our accelerated kids keep accelerating, our kids that are working on grade level get supports to work on grade level, and our kids that need remediating are getting that help as well. So that's part of our plan for staffing. And then we're also piloting a 6-period day right now, and that'll require us to get a couple more instructors potentially at the high school, because one of the things we really want to do is get kids excited about school again. It's been a real grind. We've had some kids that have been out. We've had kids that have just been really stressed, as I mentioned earlier with the SEL introduction. And we want school to be a really fun and engaging place to learn. So we're hoping we can build a strong CTE program, much more hands-on interactive courses for the kids as electives. But we'll need some new staff to do that. Our current staff is going to have their hands full doing all of our Michigan Merit curriculum.
Okay. I'll step aside.
Thanks, Greg. Go, Kara.
This is Kelly. I'm just here for moral support, driving in the car, so that's why my camera's off.
Oh, excellent. Hi, Kelly. Well, I've got Kara here too. So Kelly, did you have any questions for me?
I don't. I think it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Kara, I know you came in a little bit later, but do you have any questions for me?
I missed the first half, so sorry. I was in another session, so.
No worries.
I'll have to listen again later.
Okay, that sounds good. We gave an intro to what we were doing for SEL, and you could watch a recording too. So we're gonna get booted out of this session in about 20 seconds. So.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you're here, Kara. Thank you. So my intention this evening is to just give you an overview of some of the things we are up to and planning, and then I'd leave most of the time at the end for you both to ask me some questions. So first of all, we are very invested in whole child work, and the state has really recognized that this is pretty critical given all of the rise in anxiety, the rise in depression, the lack of coping that's happened as a result of COVID. Not just to our students, but within family systems, within teachers, within our support staff. So the time is more pressing than ever to really think about how are our children managing and how do they fit within a greater system. So first, I just want to explain how whole child works. And basically at the center core of that social and emotional learning, there are 5 elements that we tend to look at in social emotional programming, and that's self-management, in terms of like, how am I managing my feelings and how I'm thinking about things. Self-awareness, do I know what those feelings are? Do I know what my thoughts are? Can I label how I'm thinking and feeling? Social awareness, how do I interact and fit in with the community? Relationship skills, what am I doing to build and maintain relationships, resolve conflict? And responsible decision making, how do I set goals for myself? How do I advance from point A to point B? So these are all skills I think people pretty universally agree are critical for good adult functioning. And we're working to support what our families are doing at home by giving them this whole child approach in school as well. But we don't just think about what happens in school, because as you can see in these concentric circles here, these children exist in a classroom. The classrooms are part of our schools, the schools are part of families, and the families are part of communities. So we look at all of those elements, because a child is not just someone learning math in the front row in the 3rd seat. A child is someone that has membership in all of these circles. And we would need to be really mindful of how do we help support them in getting what they need. So that's essentially what social emotional programming is and what the intent is for, is to look at them as a whole person. So when we think about social emotional skills, I think it's a lot really about life skills. How are we effective in our lives as young adults and as adults? And what it is basically is all of those skills that I just talked about in that graph. And then it's also, because the state of Michigan requires this, learning to plan for a future with educational development plans, meaning how do I best learn? What do I need when I learn? What do I know about myself as a learner? As well as career awareness and career readiness, because we want to expose children to as many varieties of things that they might consider, because we don't know what jobs are going to be created yet. The world is changing so quickly that we need to get kids ready for thinking about where might I see myself landing as a young adult and an adult. So that's what it is. What it isn't is a judgment of family values, mores, or norms. We're not working to override any of those or supplant any of those in any way. It's more a matter of us giving these basic life skills to our students. It is also not critical race theory. I've had a lot of people asking me, well, is CRT and SEL the same thing? They have nothing to do with each other at all. And in fact, critical race theory is more of a graduate level theoretical construct. That's me kind of sounding like the professor I used to be. But at graduate levels and doctoral levels of study, this was a theory that was put out to help examine economic inequities based on race. It is not something that really has any place in K-12 education because it's not a framework or lens that we're using to teach our students. So CRT is not something that we have in the Valley. It's not something that we're going to bring to the Valley. And it really isn't something that's appropriate for study at the K-12 level. It's more of a graduate construct, it's pretty esoteric, and it just belongs in that realm of study. So it's not something we do here in the Valley, and they're not the same thing. It is also not mandatory. If parents don't want their kids engaging in SEL programming, they can opt out of this programming. But I would really hope parents would look at the whole curriculum first before they make that decision. Because it's kind of like that, book, everything I ever needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. Those are the same basic principles that we're doing in SEL programming. So I would hope parents would really look at it before they would make that determination. So where are we right now? In terms of the ESSER funds, we have been able to start looking at all these programs currently. So K-12, we're using Zello. And Zello is a learning platform that helps the kids develop those educational development plans I spoke about earlier. It also helps them log and explore their career readiness and awareness. So they can explore things like, what's a day in the life of a teacher look like? What's a day in the life of an engineer? What's a day in the life of a farmer? And they can explore what that job looks like. And they can also match it to their aptitudes and their interests to see if this is a career field they might want to pursue. So this is where we keep all of this in a warehouse, and the kids keep working in this all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. In K through 6, right now we're piloting a program called Second Step. And we're also currently reviewing Character Strong, which is a second, very similar comparable program, but we're piloting Second Step to see what we think about this. At 7-8, we're piloting Trails, which is from the University of Michigan. And that's 20 lessons a year, twice a month, basically. And it's a push into our science or social studies classrooms for 7th and 8th graders. And we've also got a feasibility study going on right now of reducing from 7-period day at the junior senior high to a 6-period day at the junior senior high. And that would impact us being able to have an advisory, which would be really beneficial for delivering some of this programming. So we haven't really implemented anything at the 9-12 level. We've spent a lot of this year just looking at graduation readiness and doing a lot of audits on kids' credit standing so that we are sure we know exactly what they need given the challenges of COVID for many of our families to be graduation ready. So that's where we've been focusing this year. We are going to keep copies and access to these curriculums in our offices, like at the corresponding level that they relate to. And then people can give us feedback on a form. If they go to those offices and look through these curriculums, they can give us feedback on a Chromebook so that we can get reviews from our families to see what they think of them also. Additionally, changing a bit of a subject. So I'm jumping from SEL now to staff retention. ESSER 3 allows for us to apply for staff retention funds and maintaining staff, potentially even expanding staff. And the past 2 years have been incredibly stressful for the entire educational system, including our kids, our parents, and certainly our staff. It's disrupted so many normal things that it's created a real sense of disequilibrium for all of us. And so ESSER recognizes that. What do you do about that? How do you express value? How do you encourage people to be retained? Because we had a pretty significant teacher shortage prior to COVID, and it's only gotten worse now. And when I came into the profession 31 years ago, I was competing against 100 other candidates for English teaching positions, theater teaching positions. Now, if we get one candidate, we're thrilled we can even hold an interview. So the world has definitely changed in the 30 years that I've been in this industry. And we're just worried that the exacerbating stress of COVID is going to push more people out. So we're thinking very purposely, intentionally, in working with our 2 union groups, which would be our teachers and our support staff. How can we work together to find a good formula that's going to be responsive to that and show our teachers how very much we appreciate them and how much we need them, as well as our support staff. We couldn't run our district without them. So essentially, that's where we are. Those are the things that we are currently doing. That's on our list of things. And I would love to hear your inputs as far as any questions you have for me, as well as any inputs or things you think we have missed in this area or this category of staff retention and SEL. And I just filled on this slide our mission and our vision, if you can see those. But I would welcome any of you to open your mics. I don't think we'll get an echo with just you three here with me, but feel free to open your mics and let me know if you have questions or inputs.
I have a question. I don't know how many people in here, I can't see anymore, but in your first SEL thing and talking about the different specifically career kind of exploring and stuff like that, have you done any like follow-up with graduates to see how effective that has been in their lives? Because I feel like for me, I have encountered so many students who, you know, think they're going to go into something. They get there, they'll even take the whole thing at college and get to the end and they're like, yeah, that wasn't for me. So I feel like there is a really experiential hands-on part of the process. And I just wondered how that, if we have any of that going on. And
that's a great question. And Holly, I don't think we've had the resources to, you know, find our grads, our alum, and then bring them back to ask them those questions. I think that would be a great question for us to ask, because, you know, and a lot of this programming has been relatively new, like the career readiness piece, that's only been here 3 years. Like that started in the fall of my first full year that I was here. So 3 years ago now is when we started with Zella. We've done some career cruising prior to that, but I don't think we've ever really had a fully integrated K-12 approach. I think we're trying to be a lot more intentional than certainly when you were here in school and, you know, subsequent years where it was just maybe some exposure, but now we're trying to really have a full curriculum with scope and sequence to make sure that we're giving really intentional exposures to things, because I think that's where schools have really failed. If I'm going to be a little critical of my own practice industry, you know, we just pushed college so hard for so long, and with No Child Left Behind, that's what everybody wanted us to gear toward, is everybody goes to college. I think that was a really huge error, and it eliminated a lot of CTE programming, it eliminated a lot of hands-on transferable skills-based courses. We're working hard to bring those back now. You know, that's part of our plan going forward, because I want to re-engage kids. You know, Logan's here, you know, the power of our FFA programs and band, and those kids love those classes because they're doing something, you know, they're engaged in the making of their knowledge. And that is so powerful. And that's one of the things I'm hoping we can use ESSER funds to do. That's happening in another room, like Joel's talking about that in curriculum room a little bit with CTE programming. But we want to change shit up quite a bit post-COVID, because I don't think we're going to be able to have the same formula that we had pre-COVID, because it hasn't been intentional enough about where do you see yourself going after high school. And I want us to get really intentional about that. But I love the idea of polling our alum. That's Katie's here too, which is pretty cool, because we're doing some outreach a little bit to our officers of preceding classes, and that might create like some cool frameworks for us to be able to get in touch with the whole class and see what more we can learn from them. Katie, do you have any thoughts on that, or do you have anything else you want to add for inputs? I don't want to talk too much.
I'm having technical difficulties, but I just came from Mr. Leatherman's session, and I'm excited about all the growth that is happening in CTE.
Awesome. I think it's going to be really good for our district. I really do.
I'm back. I think I cut out.
Yep. I heard you were excited. I heard that part about CTE, and then I think I lost you.
Yes, I'm excited about the new things happening in CTE in Maple Valley. And I think, you know, you nailed it when you said we really pushed everybody to go to college and realized that maybe wasn't the case. That wasn't the best plan for everybody. And I like that the direction that we're going, looking at new options for kids.
Awesome. That's helpful. We're going to get kicked out of here in about 30 seconds, everybody. But when we go back to that room, we're going to be putting in a link to a feedback loop, and you can say which courses or which breakouts you were in, and then give us your thoughts. So Holly, make sure you mention about following up with alumni, please. And Katie, please affirm that CTE is a good way to go, because those are the types of things we really need to validate what we're planning so far. And then if you have any new thoughts, please let us know.
We're gonna get going. I'm gonna share this. And if you have questions, please ask at the end. With interventions in small groups, I am Mr. Harvey. I'm just going to go through and talk about it. Interventions in small groups are kind of important to me as a teacher and as a principal over the last couple of years. When I was a teacher in small groups, I did 3rd grade and kindergarten. We had interventions, and that ended up getting taken away from us back in 2016-17. We kind of budget crisis, and then we moved to a different way. We gave somebody a coaching position that kind of took over. 2012, 2013, we lost our counselor, social worker, small groups and behavior interventionists, where she was working with groups in classrooms. And that was tough for us as an educator here at Maple Valley and for the kids. So it was something that we had, but we lost. And like I said, 2016 and 17 was our last year that we had ELA and math interventions. Those were some of the highest years we've had with the NWEA score. So it's really important, like I said, as a teacher and as a principal, to get this back, and really excited to get this back. We did start it back last year. I see she's here with us right now. We had it for 7 weeks in 2021 school year, and we saw great growth with those kids. Very excited to have it during that time, and it showed great data. And so we could bring it back again for the 2020-2022 year. We started back up at Fuller Street. We have Miss Harris, Miss Kellogg, Miss King, and Miss Jadis all work with interventions. Miss Harris and Miss Kellogg work with ELA strictly, and Mrs. King and Miss Jadis with math. They have done a fabulous job this year, and we've really enjoyed them working with the kids. And we've seen huge growth with the NWEA. So we're seeing some good growth at Fuller with this going on right now. So very excited. Why interventions? I mean, this is kind of important. More individual attention to kids high and low. A lot of the times we think interventions, we're just hitting the low kids, but no, we're hitting the high kids too, because we're breaking up the groups. With the lower ones going with the intervention, the high ones get to work a little bit more with the teacher. So it's definitely benefiting all kids. It's really important for us to do that. Flexible. Every teacher is a little different. They have different styles. It's a great thing about it. And working with different kids, this is their opportunity to show their technique, their skill set. It is so awesome to see. So very good. Target areas of need. This is where we can really pinpoint using the NWEA data, our diagnosis testing, and use that to really hone in on what the kids really need for certain subjects. So we can switch our groups up a little bit more and use that testing to really help them out. We have an extra teacher there that can monitor. I think that's awesome. So we have really 2 teachers working with kids in and out. We also will have a para that works with those kids too. So we really have people in and out doing a great job. It's really, like I said, something to see, and it's nice to get it back in the school system. Feedback, teachers working with each other. I think that's cool. We have the classroom teacher and the intervention coach. They're going to kind of go back and forth. They can work different ways what they see. It's really important. So it's really exciting for me to see that. And the teachers that are going through the interventions, there'll be special training for them. And I think that's huge, that we're looking at that area and really giving them a little extra bonus for doing it and working hard and stuff like that. So it's really exciting to give them that extra training to work with those kids. Provide to improve student learning. So I think anytime we do small groups and work with kids, that's our best way to really make improvements. And we're seeing Great improvements, like I said, at Fuller Street. Very excited to get this going at Maplewood 2 next year. So a lot of good things are happening. Very excited to see this coming back. Small groups kind of were cut out because of COVID this last couple years, but with things seem to open up a little bit more, it seems like we're going to have a little bit more small groups in the classrooms and in the intervention rooms. So that's exciting to me. I know that's exciting to the staff too. Current plans to address learning needs. So like I said, we have had it like a year and a half off where it's kind of with COVID, different things happening. We have 2 posting positions, interviews start next week on Monday. Looking for a K-6, one at Fuller Street and one at Maplewood. Coordinate small groups, making it possible for teachers intervention. So very excited about this. And then this year will allow us to apply to learn the response to the NWEA. So this person's really going to work hard working with the NWEA, getting in the data. Like I said, this is really data driven. So it's really important to know that we can look at that data and analyze it and then kind of work together as a group. All students benefit from small groups. There is no doubt if we can have a group of 4, a group of 6, that's great. A lot better to work with than a group of 16 to 20, 24, so we can break it up better. So like I said, this is really exciting for us to get back here at the Valley. I was one that taught and loved it. And as an educator and as a principal, I'm really excited to see this getting back into our school system. All right, questions, input. This is a time that I'd really like to hear from you guys. What you're hoping to see out of it, what you'd like to see, what's your idea of it. This is a time that you guys can go ahead and talk. Well, you can always email me at tharvey@mvs.k12.mi.us if you have some questions. I think some of you guys have my cell phone out there too, that you guys are more than welcome to give me a call, any way to reach out about this. I am excited. Like I said, things are going really well. Excited to see it at Maplewood get in the system. But like I said, any questions, if you guys have any questions, please ask, comments. Miss Harris, I see you out there. You got any questions, comments?
I'm sorry, I was feeding the dog really quick. So got them quiet so now I can contribute. But I just have been so excited in the last even couple of days that we're starting this new letters training, the online platform for learning. And I've already learned a ton, and I've literally just watched an intro video and 1 lesson. So I'm like super excited to be diving into more training, to learning more myself, and like kind of learning some statistics about how reading, basically reading recovery and intervention can, like, there's so many, one of the numbers they threw out was like 21 to 23% of US adults are at low levels of literacy or ability to read and write. And people are just like so good at hiding it that, you know, there's lots of factors, of course, but they've missed things along the way. So I'm just like so excited to produce students who will find a love of learning and that they can excel in it. And so that sets them up for success for life. So I think that's one of the things that I'm like most excited about having the intervention.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Harris. And it is exciting to see us. It'll change over years, how we're running it, you know, how things work. And it's definitely, our staff is so flexible and awesome here at Maple Valley. It's neat to see, like, okay, one year this is going to work and next year. So I'm really excited to see what we do with it, how well we adapt and change with the kids and stuff like that. So I think that this is awesome. And like I said, the training is great. So thank you. Anybody else, anything? Well, thank you very much. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, please give me a call, email, anything to add, input. Like I said, we're excited to take input. and go from there. So thank you very much. So got 4 minutes of questions, so you guys can hammer away. All right.
I'm looking, so on my screen, it says there's 2 Victorias.
Yeah, that's
which
why I
I'm
thought you were in
wondering-
here twice. I was like, what's she doing in here twice?
Yeah, I don't know why, because I'm just on my phone. I really don't know why, but I've just loved that letters training already. Because it's just like a quote, one of the quotes that is like their motto for this letters training talks about that teaching programs don't teach children, teachers do. And I was so like, I mean, that just kind of punched me right in the gut of like, we can put all the programs in the world, but like we have solid staff and solid trained staff. And so that is like exciting to me to be collaborating with the teachers to find out like students' exact needs. Like, is it background knowledge? Is it vocab? Is it language structures? Like, is it all, what pieces are we missing? Where are these gaps? And so it's been cool to study the data this year and see like what each child needs. And that's what I love like about interventions, that we can just hone in on those skills. We can find those gaps and then in our small groups plan for that area. So it's not just glazed over for every kiddo in the classroom when they may or may not need it. I love that. That's been fun at just even as the reading intervention teacher to see that the kids like enjoy it because they can fill the gap themselves, that we're giving them what they need to kind of fill that gap. And so then it just broadens their horizons. So it's just been cool to see. It really has, like, their success along the way.
The improvements in kids that make it's awesome. Sorry, Tiffany, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I have to agree, Vicki. I'm really looking forward to that letters training too, and all of the things that so far I've learned from that and just the statistics that they're putting out there. And it's really going to provide teachers with the actual tools to be able to teach these skills that are needed.
Yep. And I love what you said too, Mr. Harvey, about the, so when the intervention teacher comes to get students, it leaves time in the teacher's schedule that they can utilize for enrichment, so that students who are either at or maybe above grade level are the teacher can swoop in and do some enrichment. And I know that teachers even have voiced to me, I love that you take them, because it gives me time to, I mean, it gives the intervention students what they need, but it also can fulfill a need, or even, I mean, sometimes it just gets added to a wish list. Like, man, if I could really do some enrichment, that would like be awesome. And I've had teachers say that they love that time because, you know, they don't want, every student deserves to learn. And, you know, if we're teaching just at grade level and there's students above grade level, you know, it's our responsibility to fill that need too. So teachers have voiced, you know, that is just a really fulfilling time overall that they can use, not only for intervention, but for enrichment. So.
Yeah, we haven't had at Maplewood, we have not had an interventionist specifically teacher for a classroom to be able to pull those kids since Aaron was there. And so it's been several years at Maplewood since we've had an actual intervention teacher to be able to pull out. And I'm excited for the position to be able to do that, as well as being able to train the staff and the parapros about what is exactly going to be needed and how to help these students grow, and also to be able to allow the teachers to be able to do the growth portion, to go above and beyond.
It's an absolutely exciting time at the Valley. We're getting a lot of things back that we've lost over the last couple of years, and it's nice to see. So
we'll be stronger than ever. I love it.
well, thank you, everybody. Have a good next breakout.
Would you like us to return to you doing the same one again?
Yeah, and again,
Okay. Okay.
if you guys would like to, you're more than welcome to, or pop to something else. Appreciate you.
Okay. All right. See you soon. Thanks.
I am very excited to get this back, the interventions in small groups. With COVID the last couple of years, we have not been able to break it down in small groups. So kind of getting back into small groups is very awesome. Very excited for us here at Maple Valley and Fuller Street, Maplewood, especially getting the interventions back. We've had interventions back, like you can see in 2016, 17. Last year we kind of got it back together with Miss Harris teaching about 7 weeks of intervention, just ELA. So that was kind of nice, but we have not had any intervention teachers since 2016, 17 in the district. So it's very excited to see it get back. And we actually, 2012, 2013, we actually lost our counselor and social worker to budget cuts during that time. So to really get this stuff going again is very exciting. I was really a teacher, kindergarten teacher and third grade teacher for a couple of years here. And we had the intervention, we had the counselors and social workers. And I went to the high school, taught for a couple of years, and we lost because of budget cuts, we've lost that. And now we're starting to get it back. And it's really exciting time for me. I know the staff here and the kids. So things are really on the up for us, and we're really excited. As you can kind of see in the 2016-17 school year, that was our highest NWE scores the last year that we did have interventions. We've always had small groups and stuff, kind of like I said, for the last couple of years, but really with COVID going on, we really stayed away from the small groups just because of tracking and tracing. So we're really getting back to that. Started back up, like I said, with Miss Harris, 2021 for 7 weeks. She worked in that capacity, did a fabulous job for 7 weeks, and has some really good data backing that. So that really enforces to go for 2021, 2020 school year to start back up at Fuller Street and do it. So Miss Harris, Miss Kellogg are working ELA right now. Mrs. King and Ms. Jadis are doing math. These ladies have done a really good job working with the other staff and stuff like that. So it's very, like I said, very exciting time right here at Fuller Street. And I'm very excited next year for Maplewood to get this going too. Why interventions in small groups? It's more individual attention for the staff. So for the kids, the staff get to break down. It's flexible. Every teacher teaches a little different. So it's kind of exciting to have two teachers working together, like, hey, this worked really well with this kid's high, this kid's low, and really knocking it out. So it's really a great thing to see the teachers working together and getting it going. Strategies are really important to work with kids. Each kid learns differently. We know that. So really the teachers in there, and right now they're doing a fabulous job. It's very exciting. It's really important to use the data. We use the NWEA and we do diagnostics testing with the kids, and using that data to really pinpoint what areas the kids need. Right now, we are not taking kids from different classes and intermixing them. But next year, it sounds like some of the things that give us the opportunity to take kids from Mrs. Powers' class and Mr. Peabody's class and join them together, because those are the areas that they need a little help on. So it's exciting to see that. Monitoring better. When you have two teachers working together, looking at the data, looking at the monitor with kids, things just seem to excel. We also have a para right now working in our ELA and math, supporting the teacher. So they're working together hand in hand, and they do some fabulous stuff. Our paras get trained with it too. And we're really excited because if we look down at the bottom, right below feedback, special training for teachers. So we're really looking for, with our intervention teachers, to get training, more training in those areas, different ways to do it. And then they can train the staff too and work with the staff. So with them getting that extra training, it's exciting to come back and give feedback to the staff on that to help us all grow. It just, like I said, small groups interventions, it's just proven to be better. We've, for numerous years, we've really done small groups. Like I said, unfortunately, the last couple of years, we have not. And not having interventionists, it kind of showed with the data, like I said, in 2016, 17, it was our highest. We definitely did a lot of good things this year with our data. Right now with NWA, the teachers and staff did a great job working with the kids. So I'm very excited to see what was going on and see our improvement. So for the spring count. So right now we had great growth, and we're looking for a little bit more growth too. So currently plans to address learning needs. We have 2 positions posted right now as for interviews start next week. Monday, it'll be an ELA intervention coach, K-6. We'll have one at Fuller and one at Maplewood. These, even though they'll be at different buildings, they're still going to be working hand in hand with each other. So it's really exciting to see that. They're going to really work the small groups. They're going to pull the NWA data, the diagnostic testing, really get it hand in hand and working together on it, and really be our leaders in that area. Intervention groups, teachers led, accurate groups, paraprofessionals. Like I said, our paras do a great job here. We get them as much support and training as we can. Like I said, we got teachers going to trainings. They'll work with the paras on that. So we have a teacher and a para. I think it works really hand in hand really well. With the NWE data, we do take it 3 times a year. And I think that's really important for us so we can see the growth throughout the year. And it really gives us time, each time that we can pull that data. Okay, we're here, we need to be here. This is the area that we need to work on. So very exciting. And it says all students benefit from small groups instruction K-6. This is an important part that a lot of time we talk about interventions really working with a group of kids, but they go with that group of kids, but then it gives the teacher a time to work with the other kids. So we're really growing everybody at that time, which is exciting here. Instead of trying to hit whole group lessons where we're trying to hit everybody at that same level, we have teachers at both levels that are trying to work with the kids to really push them at different levels so they're not all hearing the same thing. And that's exciting to me to get this back. So like I said, it works with all kids, different levels, and it doesn't put as much stress on the teacher where they're trying to get every angle of it and work with every kid in certain ways. But like I said, this is the first time we've got it back full time at Fuller Street. Excited to get it back at Maplewood. Things are going very smooth, very excited, and loving our growth right now from the NWEA, from the summer to the winter. So we have good growth so far, and excited to see the growth here at the end. This is a time that you guys have questions, please ask. Input too. We are here to input, like, hey, I hear this is going on over somewhere else. Please share questions, concerns. I'm more than happy to listen.
One question I did have for you, Trent. So I was in the curriculum group just a second ago. And there's a lot of reference to data. And I know that I've kind of talked about it a little bit with Mr. Peabody and this NWEA score. Is there any thought to make some of that data available to the public, or is it reported on normally as a first-time parent in the district? How are we communicating out to the community that we are seeing these goals and what the interventions we are doing are actually successful? Is that made available? And kind of like as a secondary question, when we identify like this core group of people who are going to work on this, are those de-identified data pieces going to be made available so we can actually see and identify those successes and celebrate them?
Absolutely, that's a great question. Mr. Burney is our data guy. So he went to the board meeting. I believe it was January to be exact. And he did a nice presentation on the growth of the students K through 12. So it was a really good presentation where I'll speak K through 6, every grade level improved. That's awesome. Like every grade level, every subject, ELA, language, math, science, everything improved every kid by, a point. So it was absolutely phenomenal data that we had just in that time that Mr. Bernie shared with us. So that's why I'm really excited about what's going on. And I said our staff, they're so awesome here that they do so many great things. Really K through. Boy, I thought they were shutting the lights off on me down there. I got a little scared here, sending me home already. I don't know, maybe it's 6:30 or almost time for me to go home, I guess. But I always give great credit to our staff. Our staff is so phenomenal, doing different things. They love to look at the data. I don't know how many other school districts do that, but I'll tell you what, here at Maple Valley, that's the one thing they do. They really data dive. And they really get after it with the kids and really look at it and make learning fun, I think, is a big key here at Maple Valley. And like I said, we're putting things in place that we haven't had in numerous years, and it's just getting really excited. I'm excited when I can talk about data and getting into it and the improvement that the staff's making and the kids. You see the smiles of the kids coming in the classrooms and coming in the school. I think that just shows what a great job our staff has done so far.
Absolutely.
Greg, you got any questions for me down there? Nope, that's okay. Sometimes I talk so quick, and the staff loves it at the staff meetings. They're like, "Yep, thank you, Mr. Harvey. That was quick." But
real quickly, Trent, I should identify myself. I'm a reporter for the Maple Valley News and the Hastings Banner, and I'm just kind of monitoring what you guys are doing tonight. So that's kind of my role here.
Okay, no problem. If you ever got any questions, please shoot me an email, call. Everybody's pretty much got my cell phone number around here, so I have no problem. Or my email, I answer it pretty quick. So, like I said, I'm really excited to be here, and like I said, our staff is absolutely phenomenal. So I think it's a great district, and things are going really good, Greg. Anything else, anybody? Made it to the 2:30 mark for me. That I'm pretty quick talker, so that's.
Hey, Mr. Harvey, it's Vicki Harris, reading intervention teacher at Fuller.
How are we doing, Miss Harris?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for joining our session. I'm just so excited to be a part of the reading intervention team. I've seen firsthand how using this data, and one of my main jobs is to collaborate with the teachers so that we can identify plans, areas of need, like specific gaps, and so that we're working on common goals with each student in particular. The other thing that I love about reading intervention is that when I take reading intervention students from the classroom, it opens up the teacher's time to be able to provide some enrichment for the remaining students in the room, so that no student goes without instruction to fit their needs. So it's our responsibility to educate every child, no matter where they're at, high, medium, or low, it doesn't matter. So I love that time slot opens up some availability for intervention and enrichment. And I've been loving the training that I'm receiving so far, and I'm going to continue with it's like a 2-year program. So even if I don't continue in reading intervention in the near future, I'm definitely going to be able to use some things in my everyday teaching following an intervention position. And so I just love that we are a teacher professional development rich district, and that we provide lots of learning opportunities for teachers to advance their knowledge to better support our students. So I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Well, thank you everybody for showing up. I appreciate it. And hopefully it was good. And if you guys ever have any questions, please reach out. Tell Mr. Taylor I said hi too, by the way.
I will do that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
So since we've gone through the second breakout session, this is just a way for us to thank you all and wrap up for the evening. We're about at 6:18, so we have 5 or 10 minutes left that we can have some small discussion with people. And then I want to give about 5 minutes for people to be able to tap into the chat. And if you look at your taskbar, you can see the chat, and Josh is going to put a link in that chat that you can click on, and that will give you access to our feedback form. And that's really beneficial for us because we are going to capture the thoughts people gave with us in the breakout rooms, but we love to have them in writing. It just helps us so much to get organized around our future planning going forward. So if you wouldn't mind giving us just a few more minutes of your evening, it's quite short, and that'll give us some insight into things you may have thought of since you were in the breakout rooms or other things you thought of. If you don't have the time to do it now, we will also put it on our website. Cody Newton will make sure that it's there and available for people, and you should be able to readily find that on our landing page for Maple Valley Schools. So thank you for that in advance, because we really want to have meaningful ongoing conversation with our community, because this is our community school system. And we put a tremendous amount of energy into assessing what we believe we need based on what we know, what the data is telling us about our students' current state of knowing and learning. And yet we still want to know, where does the community feel we need to go? This is a community-based school system, and we really treasure everybody's input and their stake in this. So thank you for being here. And look in June on our website. I said at the beginning, but I don't know if everybody was here then. The third phase of this ongoing conversation with people is that we will be posting our finalized budget that people can review and see where we're landing in terms of how we're spending these funds that have been allocated to us. So look for that, and that will be readily available. I'll make sure I promote it, and we'll have it on our webpage so people can be in the know. Certainly anytime between now and then, our doors are still open. The 5 people that presented to you today have a huge stake in not only planning, but implementation of all these programs. So they're the people to reach. If you have any thoughts or ongoing input that you think may have been missed tonight, if you think of it next week, if you think of it in 2 weeks, we still want to hear from you. So please reach out to us and let us know your thoughts and your feelings about how we can best utilize this fund. In my lifetime, I have never seen an infusion of capital into a school district like this ever. And I don't anticipate it will ever happen again. So it's incredibly important that we work together to make this work out well for our kids. We're working to leverage everything we've got to make it work even harder for us. Josh talked about that a lot in his room, and I know Eric talked about that a lot in his room. So we're doing a lot of things to try and make the most of these funds. So at this time, we've got a few minutes left. If anybody would like to open their mic and give a question to the greater group, or you can certainly address the question to any one of the 5 of us facilitators or Mr. Sydloski, who's here still. I can't see everybody because my screen only allows me to see 5 tiles, but I would just really love if you could click on the chat, which is in that taskbar, and just chat to us. Was this beneficial? We're always trying to examine the ways. I would love a good critique of Critical Friends. Is this a beneficial way to learn more about what the district's doing? Was this helpful? Do you have any recommendations of better ways we can do outreach to the community? I would really love to hear that. If it was great, you could just type in there great or helpful. But I would love to hear from you in the chat to see if this was a beneficial platform.
No, I think this was very helpful, Dr. Bertolini. This is Chayla Robles Taylor. I just want to say thank you for presenting this information and having the groups, and I look forward to kind of looking at the recordings at a later time. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, Chayla. It's great to have you with us. I'm seeing lots of good, helpful.
I definitely found this helpful. Thanks again to everybody that put this on. I do have one question, so that I guess any parents that are on here, I don't think that there's a lot on here, but I know there's some. Where do we go to find out where to apply, I guess, for the committees to be a parent on the committee for the curriculum, and when would we have to apply by?
At that, when you go out, Grant, to the survey that Josh put the link in the chat feature, or it'll also be, the survey will also be available on our website on the landing page, I believe. Cody, correct me if I'm wrong in a minute, but that has a list on it that says, would you want to serve on our curriculum committees? So you could list your name, your email, your phone number. We're also asking best times of availability for you if you're interested, and then which area of curriculum you would like to give some review to. So that there's a portion for that at the end of the survey, Grant. So please do fill that out if you're interested. And then we're also going to be putting that out to our families, probably on our website, inviting people just to apply that weren't at this event this evening and don't know about it. But we're also going to promote that on our curriculum tab for our district website as well. So we'll have ongoing requests for people. And I can just say real quickly, and Joel may have spoken, but I know not everybody could be in every group. We're examining one curriculum at a time. So currently we're working on social studies curriculum, but it's such a big process. We can only really do one big lift at a time. So Joel's going to be listing a timeline of when we're going to be working on each curriculum strand. And then people might not be able to serve like till next spring for some of them, because this is going to take us at least a couple years to do all of this work. So social studies is happening right now. So if you're interested in social studies, that's the most current one. If you sign up for some of the others, those might not start happening until a few months or several months from now, depending on which ones you're interested in. Is that helpful? Grant, I can't tell if you're talking or not, but you're muted right now.
Sorry. No, I was just listening to you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Nope, no problem. I
Yeah,
just wanted
yes,
to
that was
answer your
helpful.
question. Awesome.
Dr. B, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, come on in, Joel.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, I was gonna share my screen, if that's okay.
I stopped sharing mine, friend.
Yep. So I just wanted to show people that maybe weren't at my my presentation here. So this is our website. So if you go to district and then curriculum, it's going to take you to our curriculum main page, and then about halfway down, we have a section here that talks about the current curriculum under review. And so, you know, we wanted to hear feedback. And so these are the two programs right now that we're looking at for social studies. And so, you know, anyone can actually preview these and click on these links and get a preview of each individual book that, you know, so this is like first grade here, a preview of one of the things that we're looking at. And then, you know, we encourage people to give feedback for each of the things. That's something right, but so just kind of a neat little thing that we're looking to do for moving forward. Again, it's on the website. Oh, there it goes. Sorry about that. And then there's a Google form here that you know, we encourage community members to fill out with your email, and then you go through and give feedback there, as well as we have physical copies at the buildings that if people want to stop in and see the books. We're super excited that we got some books here. So this is just kind of an example of, you know, what's kind of blurring itself out because of my filter, but it's been great to get some feedback from the community, and we really value that. We want a lot of strong feedback for as we're going through and things. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks so much, Joel, for sharing that. I think it helps people to know where they can find the information so they can land there. That's awesome. I appreciate you doing that. So I want to thank everybody so much for being here. I really value your time and I value your input. And I'm glad we're partnering on this. It's a big project. It's a wonderful gift, but it's a lot of difficulty that comes along with spending it well. And that's our intention. So thank you all so much again, and we will see you soon. Stay tuned. Great things are happening in the Valley, people. We're rounding a corner and COVID is going to be in our rearview mirror. And I cannot wait to do all the good things that I've been wanting to do for such a long time. We're looking forward to it. And thanks again for being here. Thank you to my team. all the leaders. They work incredibly hard for many, many hours each week to try and do great things for your kids. And I'm grateful for their presence here this evening too. So thank you, everybody. Take care and we'll see you soon.